Queen Zalaria, the seventh, ruled the star hive of Velmora with perfect symmetry and absolute certainty, or at least she thought she did. Her species reproduced through carefully engineered cloning cycles that never failed and never surprised anyone. Unfortunately, the Galactic Council had recently declared the Velmoran method stagnant and creatively bankrupt. A council representative suggested something called cross-species inspiration, which sounded insulting and fascinating at the same time. After several sleepless light cycles, Queen Zalaria, fixated on one strange blue planet catalogued as Earth. Humans reproduced chaotically, emotionally, and with alarming inefficiency. According to the research drones, this inefficiency somehow produced music, humor, and an entire industry devoted to tiny cakes. The Queen leaned back on her floating throne and made the worst decision of her reign. She would personally oversee an experimental human-inspired breeding initiative. Her second-in-command, General Threx, immediately turned a concerning shade of purple. "Your Majesty, humans require something called dating," Threx warned. Zalaria waved a jeweled tentacle dismissively. "How difficult can mating rituals be?" she said, nearly electrocuting the console by accident. The Velmoran ship appeared above Earth, disguised as a cloud shaped like a confused turtle. Queen Zalaria insisted on direct observation, believing leadership meant immersion. She selected a quiet human city filled with coffee shops and unresolved emotional tension. Disguised in a humanoid form that still had too many elbows, she entered a social venue known as a bar. Within seconds, her heart equivalent began pounding like an alarm drum. The noise level, alone, exceeded safe diplomatic limits. Humans shouted over music while smiling aggressively. A human male approached and asked if she came there often. Zalaria froze, scanning internal protocols. "Often compared to what?" she asked sincerely. The human laughed and offered her a drink containing at least 3 poisons. Her internal biology monitor began flashing warnings. Elevated pulse, emotional confusion, attraction mixed with fear. "Is this breeding?" she whispered into her communicator. General Threx responded with a scream and static. When someone suggested dancing, Zalaria experienced what medical logs would later describe as a near-heart attack. Back aboard the ship, Queen Zalaria demanded answers. "Why does reproduction involve loud music and footwear that injures the spine?" she demanded. The science cast attempted to explain romance. Charts were displayed showing feelings, awkward pauses, and something called ghosting. The Queen attempted to simulate the process in a controlled environment. Velmoran volunteers were instructed to complement each other randomly. Several fainted, one proposed marriage, another tried to start a podcast. Meanwhile, Earth media reported sightings of unusually polite aliens asking deeply personal questions. Public reaction ranged from excitement to immediate conspiracy theories. Queen Zalaria tried speed dating next. After 5 minutes, with each human participant, her stress enzymes reached catastrophic levels. One human discussed astrology for 17 uninterrupted minutes. Another said they were not emotionally ready but wanted to keep things casual. Zalaria clutched her chest plate and declared, "I would rather fight a supernova." After mandatory medical rest, the Queen reviewed human cultural data more carefully. She discovered that human breeding was not the point at all. Connection, storytelling, shared experiences, and vulnerability mattered more than efficiency. This revelation struck her harder than any asteroid. Velmorans had optimized everything until nothing surprised them anymore. No wonder the Council called them stagnant. Zalaria returned to Earth not to breed, but to observe kindness. She watched humans help strangers, argue passionately, forgive slowly. Her heart rate still spiked constantly but now for different reasons. When a human child offered her a drawing of a smiling alien family, Queen Zalaria felt something entirely undocumented. Warmth, pride, terror, and hope all at once. Her medical unit screamed again. This time it was joy overload. Queen Zalaria addressed the Galactic Council weeks later. Her voice trembled but did not fail. Humans are not a breeding solution, she declared. They are a lesson. She proposed cultural exchange instead of genetic experimentation. Music swaps, storytelling nights, shared meals without poisoning anyone. The council sat in stunned silence. General Threx later noted that the Queen smiled more often now, even if her heart monitor never fully calmed down. Back on Earth, a small bar kept a reserved seat for a strange woman with too many elbows. A sign above it read, "First Interstellar customer drinks free." And somewhere in the stars Queen Zalaria laughed and promised herself, "Never again will I underestimate humans." Queen Zalaria the Seventh did not relax easily. This was not a personality flaw so much as a biological incompatibility. Velmoran queens were engineered to be alert, calculating, and permanently one unexpected event away from cardiac overload. Still, after her speech to the Galactic Council and the cancellation of all experimental breeding initiatives, her medical caste issued a unanimous directive. Mandatory rest cycle. Failure to comply will result in spontaneous collapse during a press conference. Zalaria agreed reluctantly. She chose Earth for her recovery, citing familiar chaos as emotionally grounding. General Threx protested until the Queen reminded him that humans survived entirely on stress and caffeine. They settled in a small coastal town where the ocean made rhythmic noises that confused Velmoran senses, but soothed the Queen anyway. Zalaria adopted a new humanoid disguise with fewer elbows this time. She practiced smiling in a mirror for nearly 3 hours. The result unsettled local wildlife. Her assigned task was simple: experience leisure. No diplomacy, no science, no conclusions. The first challenge came immediately. Humans defined leisure differently depending on personal trauma. Some sat quietly and watched waves. Others ran marathons voluntarily. Zalaria chose a bench overlooking the water. She sat perfectly still, posture immaculate, heart rate at battle readiness. After 12 minutes, a human approached and asked if she was waiting for someone. "No," Zalaria replied honestly. "I am attempting to do nothing." The human nodded with deep respect and sat beside her. They did nothing together for several minutes. Zalaria's medical display flickered in confusion. Shared inactivity registered as bonding. Encouraged, she attempted another leisure activity. Eating for pleasure. This proved dangerous. Earth cuisine contained textures with no tactical justification. Crunch where softness was expected, sweetness followed by betrayal. Zalaria sampled something called ice cream and briefly believed she was dying. Her heart rate spiked, then stabilized into something close to bliss. She ordered 3 more. Later that day, she encountered humans engaging in a ritual known as small talk. Weather was discussed at length despite being observable by everyone present. Zalaria contributed precise atmospheric data and accidentally ended the conversation. She apologized immediately. That evening, she attempted entertainment. A human suggested watching a romantic comedy. Zalaria prepared emergency emotional stabilizers. The film involved misunderstandings, exaggerated reactions, and a plot resolved entirely through communication that could have happened earlier. Zalaria shouted advice at the screen. Just ask them how they feel. Her heart nearly failed during the third act breakup scene. After the movie, she required hydration, reassurance, and a brief lie down. She recorded extensive notes. Humans voluntarily induce emotional distress for narrative satisfaction. This explains everything. On the third day of rest, the Queen attempted something truly radical. Sleeping in. Velmoran biology discouraged unconsciousness beyond regulated intervals. Still, Zalaria disabled her internal alarms. She slept for nearly 8 uninterrupted human hours. She awoke disoriented but strangely refreshed. Her heart monitor displayed unfamiliar readings. Calm. She nearly panicked at the sight. That afternoon, she walked through a market filled with colors, sounds, and irrational pricing. A human vendor offered her fruit and asked how her day was going. Zalaria opened her mouth to answer honestly. She paused. She said, "Good." The word felt powerful. She bought the fruit out of gratitude. As days passed, her entourage noticed changes. The Queen hummed quietly while walking. She reacted to surprises with laughter instead of alarms. Her heart still raced, but no longer exclusively from fear. General Threx observed from a distance, recording data with suspicion. He noted that humans waved at the Queen, and she waved back incorrectly but enthusiastically. The true test came unexpectedly. A child tripped near the shoreline and began crying. Zalaria reacted instantly, moving faster than protocol allowed. She knelt, offered comfort, and produced a holographic butterfly without thinking. The child stopped crying and laughed. Zalaria's chest tightened sharply. Medical alerts flared. She braced herself for collapse. Instead, the pain passed, replaced by warmth. Connection again. That night, she reviewed her logs and realized something alarming. Her heart was adapting, not weakening, expanding. She contacted the Galactic Council without summons. This alone caused panic. Zalaria reported her findings calmly. Exposure to humans induces long-term emotional resilience, she explained. Stress does not vanish, but becomes meaningful. The Council demanded clarification. The Queen struggled to explain leisure, kindness, and ice cream in scientific terms. She eventually said, "They feel things intensely and survive anyway." Silence followed, then quiet agreement. Upon returning to her ship, Zalaria felt a strange reluctance. Earth had unsettled her, terrified her, nearly stopped her heart repeatedly. And yet she felt stronger. Before departure, she returned to the bar with the reserved seat. She sat quietly, ordered a harmless drink, and listened to laughter around her. No alarms sounded. For the first time in her reign, Queen Zalaria rested without fear. Her heart still raced, but now it raced toward life rather than away from it. Somewhere in her vast empire, a new directive was issued. Learn from humans, care carefully, and never assume survival requires calm. The Queen smiled. Carefully, with only 2 elbows. Returning to Velmora should have felt familiar. Instead, Queen Zalaria, the 7th, experienced something dangerously close to apprehension. Her throne chamber appeared exactly as she left it, symmetrical, efficient, emotionally sterile. The moment she stepped off the transport platform, the hive attendants bowed in perfect unison. Normally, this precision soothed her cardiovascular system. This time, her heart skipped in confusion. General Threx marched beside her, posture rigid, voice carefully neutral. "Welcome home, Your Majesty." Zalaria nodded and resisted the urge to wave. Council members awaited her in a crystalline chamber designed to discourage long conversations. They began immediately. Reports of increased human contact among Velmoran citizens, unauthorized music exchanges. Someone attempted baking. Xylaria listened calmly. Her heart monitor remained stable, which worried everyone present. She addressed them without raising her voice. Exposure was inevitable, she said. Humans were not contagious, but influential. They changed those who observed them closely. A scientist objected. Emotion introduces inefficiency. Xylaria smiled slightly. So does fear of change. To demonstrate her findings, she initiated a controlled cultural trial, a human tradition known as storytelling night. Velmorans gathered awkwardly in shared spaces. No data pads allowed. At first, nothing happened. Then one Velmoran shared a memory of failure. Another admitted curiosity. Heart rates rose across the chamber. Medical teams prepared for disaster. Instead, something extraordinary occurred. The hive resonated, not with panic, but with understanding. Xylaria felt it too. Her chest tightened briefly, then settled into strength. Later, she walked alone through the cloning halls. Rows of perfect replicas awaited activation. For the first time, she wondered what stories they would never have. She issued a quiet directive. Reduce replication cycles. Increase lived experience intervals. Alarms did not sound, but change had begun. That evening, she stood beneath Velmora's artificial stars, listening to imported human music played too loudly and slightly off rhythm. Her heart raced again. She welcomed it. Queen Xylaria VII had nearly lost her life trying to understand humans. Instead, she had learned how to live. And the galaxy would never be calm again.